The face of today's grandparent is ever-changing. With baby boomers entering the arena and seasoned grandparents raising more and more infants today, keeping up with the latest techniques, tips, and recommendations can be overwhelming. Here to talk about what will be learned at the upcoming Grandparenting 101 seminar is clinical educator Michelle Flowers with Baptist Hospital. Michelle, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me, Jeff.
Well, there have been lots of changes, and let's just talk about some of these aspects that may have changed or information that wasn't around, say, when grandparents were first parenting.
I think one of the biggest aspects we have to face as grandparents today that maybe we didn't have as parents would be the endless access to technology today's children have, be it through the computer, video games, camera phones, whatever the case may be, but keeping up with today's children and the technology. For myself, it's very daunting, and we need to do that in order to stay connected with our grandkids and also to help prepare them for the dangers that could be out there through the internet and that access.
Well, what about some of the practical aspects of just in the home, in the car, that type of thing? Toddler-proofing a house, for example.
Oh, with some ways to toddler-proof homes, some things that come to mind that maybe we didn't think of as much would be the knowledge that we have over common house plants, knowing which ones are toxic versus which aren't, keeping our medications up and then locked up. We know that they're child-resistant caps, but they're not child-proof, so making sure you get all of those up and locked away when you're expecting your grandbaby. Getting down on their level. When the child's first learning to crawl, be it yourself, another neighborhood child, someone crawling around the home at their own level to see what they see, such as dropped beads, buttons, screws, medications, watching out for doors and windows that lead out to pools, making sure they have alarms installed so that you're aware when they go outside, covering all your outlet covers, keeping the safety locks on windows, on drawers and cabinets, that sort of thing. And certainly if you keep firearms in the home, making sure those are locked up with the ammunition kept separately from the actual firearm. And one thing I read the other day that brought to mind is the plastic dry cleaner bags. We think nothing of coming home, hanging those up in the closet. That is a very, very big danger for toddlers. They like to pull them down, cover up their heads. So be sure to remove those, remove clothing, and when you throw them in the garbage, to tie them in knots. Children love to go and visit the trash to see what toys they can find there. So to be sure to get rid of plastic garbage bags and grocery bags, and when you do, to tie them up if they're empty when you place them in those receptacles.
Well, what about nutritional requirements? I know a lot of recommendations change over the years, and it may not be the same information. It's just different. There's been more research. What about nutritional recommendations?
Well, currently, the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months of life, and thereafter for at least a year of age, and longer is mutually acceptable to the mother and the infant. And that's a change that some of us may have, but that again is based on what we know at this time and current evidence. We also are advocating waiting until children are about 6 months of age before starting on solids. And you know when a baby's ready to start solid food when they're able to sit up on their own and actually reach for utensils. And that's a change for some grandparents as opposed to when we were parents. But again, we did the best we could with the information we had available to us at that time, and now we're basing it on current recommendations and studies that we've found for the child's development as well as their nutritional needs.
Well, I know, like personally, my grandmother, that was always a special person, a special place to go, so I got treats that I might not have gotten from my mother. What do grandparents need to know about maybe not offering all those little extra goodies?
Really, it's best to offer them nutritious snacks. Toddlers love a variety of foods with bright colors. They love to dip food, so offering them things like peanut butter to dip their vegetables, cutting those vegetables into bite-sized pieces, but then offering a variety. Toddlers are very active, so they're not going to sit still for 3 large meals, but they prefer 4 to 6 meals a day, and frequent snacking and encouraging that is good behavior, but nutritious snacking is a good thing to offer. And being very careful about the juice. Okay. If we give juice, no more than 4 ounces a day is recommended by the Academy of Pediatrics, and in so doing, it's best to half that with water. Half juice to half water.
Okay. Well, I know there's been some changes. For example, you mentioned the information we had then versus now. There's been some changes in recommendations about sleeping positions.
Certainly. In 1992, the American Academy of Pediatrics came out with the recommendation that we place all infants on their backs to sleep. Since that time, what we've seen is a 50% reduction in the incidence of SIDS. So while we may have been accustomed to different patterns, certainly the results are astounding. So we are strongly advocating that infants be placed on their backs for sleep. And also another thing to note about sleeping, we prefer a tight-fitting single sheet on the bed, not any fluffy pillows, stuffed animals, comforters, bumper pads, and that's a change for some of us.
Okay. Before we get into the actual details about the seminar, what about car seats? I know a lot of us, I used to ride on with the armrest lowered and sitting on the front seat between my grandparents. That probably was not a good idea, but
no,
we had some good trips.
But we did. Currently, we recommend that all infants ride in a rear-facing car seat for a minimum of 1 year and 20 pounds. Beyond that, we really encourage that they remain rear-facing to the upper height and weight limits of their seats. For grandparents, a good investment would be a convertible car seat, and that will take them from the infant stage on through toddlerhood. And again, recommending they remain rear-facing to the upper weight and height limits for that seat. And some things to know about car seats is they have expiration dates. A lot of us weren't aware of. Those can be found imprinted on the back of that seat. So if you've had them up in the attic, using them child to child, make sure to check for those dates, as the material that protects them can become very dry and brittle and not as protective in the event of an accident.
That's great information. Well, tell us a little bit about the seminar. I know we're hitting the high spots, so we want to have lots of information for people to get when they come visit you. So tell us a little bit about your upcoming seminar.
Grandparenting 101 is going to be held at Baptist Hospital in the medical meeting rooms on September 8th, starting at 11:30 with a light lunch, followed up by the actual seminar from 12 to 1, and we're going to cover these topics and a vast array of others. We're also going to be providing resource information in written format, so we strongly hope and encourage people to come so they can learn more about the current recommendations, because again, we know that they change, so we all were just doing the best we could, and we want to help facilitate relationships between today's parents and grandparents.
Well, there's a growing number of grandparents taking on the primary caregiving role for young children, and appreciate y'all doing this. I know 2 months ago, the Council on Aging in West Florida, we began a monthly support group for grandparents raising grandchildren that meets on the second Thursday of each month, and so we'll share people.
Yes, sir.
Do you need reservations for your seminar?
You do, and those can be made by calling 469-7897. We'll be happy to take that reservation and look forward to seeing you all.
Well, great, Michelle. Thank you for being here and appreciate those tips, and I'm sure you'll have a big crowd.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.